From York University to disrupting a $20 billion industry, he's the founder of PUR Gum Company, the leading company in the aspartame-free gum world. We're here with Jay Klein. Let's talk business.
Yeah, well, first of all, Avery, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's awesome to be here. I love what you're doing and really excited to share a few things today.
So, Jay, you started your educational career, post-secondary career at York University, but you're from Florida. Can you talk a bit about what brought you to Toronto, what you saw about York that you liked?
Yeah. Well, it may have been an unconventional pick for university. I grew up in Florida, and Americans really go away to school. Like, you finish high school and you go away. So for me, like, anywhere was an option. And I went to summer camp in Muskoka, and I loved it. And my friends would go into town on days off, or they would come back to Toronto on days off, and they talked about going to university in Toronto. And so I thought, like, after this extensive SAT process and application process, originally I wanted to play baseball for an American school, but I broke my elbow my senior year. And I thought, you know what, why don't I just go where some of my friends are? So I walked into York University to the office of the registrar, and I just wrote my name down. I gave a $200 deposit, and they handed me a student number. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. I'm in.
That's easier than now.
Totally. And then someone I met along the way said, oh, you're going to York University. Isn't that the Harvard of Canada? And I said, if you say so, that sounds amazing. Yes, I'm going to the Harvard of Canada. And while it may not be the Harvard of Canada, I went there. I had a great experience, graduated, and then I got onto real life.
Right. And so I know that you were toying with the idea of going to law school. And you've said before that you really were trying really hard not to go to law school. You went into entrepreneurship after that, starting a marketing company. But before that point, when you made that decision, did you feel, or did anyone else around you say that you were avoiding law school through entrepreneurship? And what was that like?
So if I take you back to kind of 1998 to 2002, when I was in university, being an entrepreneur wasn't the sexiest thing. Actually, a lot of my friends, a lot of the cohort that I grew up with went into true professions. They went into law, they went into accounting. I didn't have so many that went into medical, but they just went into places where you could have structure and security in what you were doing. So being an entrepreneur in the year 2001 or 2002 was far more unconventional than it is today. My experience in university taught me that if you put in the time and you have the discipline of showing up to class, making friends in a new social environment after you kind of get out of high school and you kind of jump into the world, it's your first time where you're kind of free and you're responsible to wake up and make your own bed and like take care of yourself. That's really what I took away from university. So I learned a lot. And then I was like, what am I going to do next? So my friends were studying for law school. My mom wanted me to be a lawyer because she wanted me to have a career. She didn't want me to have the daily grind and fight through every day and figure out how am I going to survive. But I had other plans. The thought of reading endless stories about legal decisions and doing that, it just wasn't appealing to me. And I would always find my mind drifting and thinking about other things. So I said to my mom, let me defer my law school admission for a year. Let me see if I can make it in the real world. And then if I don't, I'll go back to law school. And I never went back to law school.
Yeah, you see that now. So at the time, obviously, entrepreneurship, you said, not really as sexy. Probably that has a lot to be attributed to social media, different really zero to hero stories that people see online. And I think right now, especially at Chat, a lot of kids look to entrepreneurship and they see, like, that's where I want to go. I'm just going to go straight there. Do you think that for most people, that's a plausible option?
So definitely being an entrepreneur today is the sexy thing to do. And the bar is set pretty low to enter into entrepreneurship. If you have an idea, if you have a social media account, if you have a website, if you have a Shopify store, you can launch your idea and be in market pretty fast. The ramp up used to take a lot longer and it was kind of harder to do your hurdles. But today, between what's happening with AI, what's happening in digital, and even what's happening in consumer products, clothing, whatever your idea is, you can bring that to market pretty quick. The problem with entrepreneurship is if you can do it quick, so can everyone else. And I think people think about starting their business in terms of, wow, I might be the only one in the world thinking about this, but really there's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of congestion around those ideas. So one of the things that I always challenge people to do is ask someone about their idea that doesn't love them. Because if you ask your mom or your aunt or your best friend or your girlfriend, what do you think of my new idea? They're going to say, oh, it's amazing. I love that idea. But if you just ask a stranger, hey, what do you think of this idea? You're going to get a very candid response. And they may say, yeah, it's been done. Here's 50 things that have happened before that. Here's 20 reasons why that's not going to work. And you don't have to stop. But what it does is it challenges your mind to process, how do I overcome those hurdles? How do I get better at building my idea and winning more? And that makes an entrepreneur sort of a little tougher, weathered, and it gets you thinking critically about your idea.
And so coming out of university, you went for that year and not starting PUR Gum immediately, you went to marketing.
Yes.
To advertise. What was that business like? What was it like just hitting the ground running at that time, especially as you said, it was harder to get to market?
So I'll say I was a good student. I had straight A's and all B's. So didn't really excel academically to the level that my peers did or that I would have liked to. But what I did was I learned a lot of lessons and I was always willing to work hard. So in marketing, when I started my marketing company, Drivertise, I was prepared to do the work and I was willing to work hard. And sometimes I found getting out of the gate, not everyone is willing to do the work. And sometimes if you just go through the motions and you're doing a little bit more than everyone else, you can start to inch your way forward a little bit. So I loved the creative process and I loved the sales process. I loved going out on a sales call, convincing someone to buy something that they otherwise wouldn't have thought of that morning, and then coming back and actually executing it. And if I parallel that to what we do today when we innovate a new product or we come out with something, it starts as an idea. A lot of people touch it, and then ultimately it ends up as a product in a store that people can buy. So it's very rewarding to see the process through from start to finish. But in marketing, when you go out there, you're selling ideas, and then every year you have to start back at zero. So in January, there's no guarantee that the work that you did in the summer is going to come back and need more.
Right.
And each year we grew the marketing business, but I was nervous that, oh my God, are we going to build bigger next year? Are we going to keep going and keep growing? And I thought, what if we created a product and people consume the product all the time? And that was the genesis of starting PUR Gum as a side project from my marketing firm.
So you went out of your marketing firm, did that as a side project. What was the process like of building PUR Gum up so it was a sustainable path to success?
So really it was a side project within the marketing firm. And what happened was I had left a meeting where we gave a lot of ideas for people to develop their brand. And they just wanted to do the conventional things that everyone else was doing. And what it challenged me to do was, how do I look through the lens of our customer and figure out, if I'm so punch drunk on our ideas, how do we try new ideas? And then I said, why don't I just try and start a product myself? I had no experience. I didn't know what I was doing. I made literally every mistake. I still learn today from making mistakes and trial and error. But what we did was we created a product, which could have been anything. It just happened to be chewing gum, because chewing gum is an item that I felt everyone consumes. It's never on your grocery list and people share it. So like if you use shampoo to wash your hair, you do that in your own home, but you don't bring it to school to share it with your friends.
Buying it once every 4 months.
Once every 4 months. So, okay. So you don't use a lot of shampoo.
Chewing gum you share with the class.
Share with the class in one day, right?
Right.
So that was the idea of a high frequency, low price item that's available worldwide. You know, if you go anywhere in the world, you can always find a bottle of water or a beverage, and you can likely find chewing gum. And, you know, the more I looked at that space, I thought, if I could ever do just $1 million in sales in chewing gum, that would be unbelievable. I never looked at it like, wow, this is a $20 billion industry and we're going after a double-digit piece of that pot.
Wow. That is a really great perspective. So then you started PUR Gum. What was the first 90 days like? What do you say the key moments were?
So, you know, at first, what you try to do is get the product to be good. Okay. You need a starting point to say, we're going to make a great product and it's going to have differentiated values. So in our case, we took the aspartame out, we took the artificial chemicals out, the artificial ingredients and colors, and made a better for you chewing gum. So we tried to identify a market that our gum would be relevant to, or an audience that we felt would consume our products. Once we developed the gum, and then we said, all right, what's the packaging going to look like? How is it going to stand out on shelf? How does it become appealing to someone who walks into a store and sees the product and says, you know what, I'll give that a try. So once we put those things together, we said, all right, where do we sell it? And all I knew how to do was fill a backpack, go drive in my car and go store to store.
That was the first time.
That was the first time. And literally it was a product of, hi, I'm Jay.
Do you remember
want to buy some gum?
Do you remember your first sale?
Our first sale was to a health food store in downtown Toronto. And, I think I was so excited and so full of energy. And he might have just bought it just to get me out of the store. Also, the challenge in chewing gum that I didn't think about from the beginning was it's not that expensive. So he was indifferent, or let's say accommodating, to buy $30 worth of gum.
Right.
That wasn't a lot of money to a guy running a store in downtown Toronto. For me, selling $30 worth of gum was like a Herculean effort, and I was so happy and so excited. I didn't even think that, maybe I just made $1 for 2 hours worth of work, and then the 90-day lead up to get it to that spot. But I was just focused on the conversion. So one of the things that I love to do is convert curiosity to consumption. How do you raise awareness about something? And then how do you get someone to buy that product?
Right. And then what was the process of ramping up the company?
So I think it was like learn by error. So every time we did something, if it didn't feel right, if it didn't flow, we would shift and jive and change. And what happened is you want to get with all these distributors, you want to get with brokers, you want to get with people that you think can get your product there faster.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what entrepreneurs sometimes walk away from is they are the driving force behind their brand. Nobody should work as hard as a founder. Nobody should have the same passion and care as the founder. So if you just start outsourcing all your issues, you don't learn enough. And today that holds so true to me that I love being at our trade show booths. I love going into customer, like their stores, and hearing what they say, because that is a first party depiction of what the market is saying. And if you dial out of that too fast and you just give that to someone else or pass, you actually don't learn about your own brand and what people are saying in the market.
And so then you started growing the business. It grew and it grew.
Yeah. So for the first 4 years, from 2010 to 2014, we had steady growth, but again, relatively low dollars, because we had hundreds and thousands of stores that were buying over time. And, they were buying $30, $50, $100 worth of product. So even though the numbers were big relative to zero, they were small to have the overhead of a warehouse or employees and things. And it doesn't feel like you can ever make money and get ahead.
Right.
And, sometimes for the gratification, people think you should be making money right away. And the patient process for growing a business is it takes time. And one of the things I talk to entrepreneurs a lot about is learn more about failure, understand what's not working, and be patient. Today you can read one article about one founder, and it talks about in 1,000 words how they took it from zero to the moon.
Right.
But really, most of the
years.
journey is highlighted about 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or these setbacks, these challenges and all that stuff. And understanding that the path is not straight helps you become a better business leader or an entrepreneur, because when challenges hit you, you don't say, oh, I'm going to just stop.
You keep on going.
You keep going.
And then the company grew more, and
yeah. So from 2010 to 2014, we grew. And then by 2014, the reoccurring model of the business and the customers kept staying and reordering and adding more products. I knew it was going to be something. I knew it was going to be able to provide me a place to grow and build, but I never imagined it would take us to where we are today. And that is, we sell gum all over the world, more than 50 countries in the world. We are the market leader in our space. And these are dreams I didn't even dream about because I was focused on winning the day. And sometimes when you just go out and win the game, and, we could parallel this to professional sports. You could parallel it to, people who do things to advance little things day to day and aren't focused on the long game. That's really what we've done. It's like bite-sized effort that has turned into, exponential growth.
And so when did you know when it was time to fully focus in on Pure Gum and Drivertise wasn't?
So from 2014 to, I'll say 2018, we really invested in growth, and I was able to shift my time away from Drivertise. I had people that were managing that, and they were great leaders that, were able to do creative things. And I decided that my future is going to be with PUR, and the opportunity with PUR was much larger. And, I had fun every day. The thing that I was able to take from the creative marketing side was, how do we exercise our creative ideas? And we've been able to do that through innovating flavors, innovating packaging formats, connecting with our audience via social media or marketing ways. And we get to have fun. I mean, like, we're in the candy space. So when we go to a trade show, like, you're walking the show floors and there's chocolate bars and cookies and candy. It's amazing.
Audience can't see, but the office is like right behind us too. It's like amazing space.
Yeah. So we're sitting in our warehouse. This is one of 4 warehouses that we have that is just full of gum and mints. And we do our packaging and our production in this warehouse in Toronto. And, we're just constantly trying to, process the products and kick aspartame.
And so then back to when you were growing the company, you were looking for investors and you went on Dragon Den. What was that like?
In 2014, I went on Dragon's Den. I remember getting the call and they said, we are familiar with your brand. We'd love for you to come on to the show.
They asked you?
Yeah.
Wow.
So Dragon's Den is very proactive. It's an amazing show, and they're looking to bring, exciting opportunities to the audience. And, in 2014, we weren't that big, but I was almost like nervous to say yes to the opportunity because I knew the 4 years of hard work, but then you put yourself in a very vulnerable situation where you're sharing your passion, you're sharing their story, and 5 people are going to opine on whether or not it's a good idea. And it wasn't just about the 5 people, it was about the millions of people that are watching the show. And if all the hard work we did was instantly shut down because people wanted to exercise an opinion or make for great television, that was a big risk for all the work that we had done. Now, I decided to take the risk. I was still very nervous to go on, but when the cameras started rolling and the lights went on in the studio, I knew my business and I was able to talk about it. I was able to confidently articulate why we were successful, our opportunity to grow, the room we had in front of us, and instantly it captivated the attention of the Dragons, and they were all for what we were doing. Once I heard, we love this idea, I chew this product, I seen this brand, I know this, it brought such a calm over me, and then it went amazing because I could just focus on talking about PUR, and I didn't have to worry if people were going to validate our story. From Dragon's Den, we got millions of eyeballs. Like it was great exposure across Canada. It was a great story. I think it's one of the most watched episodes they've ever had. And that has opened up new doors to,
right now,
being a dragon.
Being a dragon. Can you tell us what it was like going on the show, coming back, full circle moment?
It's a true full circle moment. So we're in season 20 of Dragon's Den, and the producers had this amazing idea to profile previous pitchers who had become successful business leaders. When I got the call, I'm still getting the goosebumps because I can feel the feeling of like, wow, like I was standing there in the spotlight pitching an idea, and then I had my head down for 10 years after that moment, and now I'm getting a call to be able to listen to the next generation of pitchers and dreamers and be there to help entrepreneurs. One of the things that I love doing is helping people understand their business, incubating them, challenge them to think about, hey, what do you really need to do to make this successful? And do you have what it takes to make it happen? So now I get to sit in the dragon seat. It's an incredible feeling, and the episodes are outstanding, and so are the entrepreneurs.
I'm sure. What was the biggest misconception you had about the show that you feel like was crushed from this whole experience?
You know what? the producers of the show care so much about letting entrepreneurs share their stories, and they are actually incubating an entire generation of entrepreneurship, because people with ideas can say, hey, I have a place to go exercise my idea. I have a voice. I can get awareness. And at the same time, I can also get some feedback from people who may invest in my idea, or I can get feedback to say, you know what, I got to get back to the drawing board. And then some of the candid feedback is, this may not be for you.
Right.
But the show profiles so much of this dialogue, but really what the show does, and the care of the people behind the show, is to make Canada and make the entrepreneurship. And you see the different franchise all over the world in different formats,
Right.
but it's to allow people the opportunity to level the playing field and have a voice and have an audience to exercise their creative entrepreneurship.
Are you still close with your dragons?
Yes. This new panel of dragons that are filming that we've done these
Right.
shows, we are almost like this united front. Like, we see the world through this lens of, I know exactly how you feel. I was there, and in life, I'm not too far away from where you could be. So let's dig in, let's understand what's happening, and let's see if we can build your idea together. As opposed to being, on the way out of your career or at the end of your active career where you're more doing passive investing and you say, yeah, I'll give you a shot and do this. We want to get our hands dirty. We want to roll up our sleeves, and we want to make these businesses scale.
That's amazing. So now that your PUR Gum has grown into this global leader in the gum industry, what has it been like having to grow your team out and letting go of a bit of control and delegating more?
So building the team is probably one of the harder parts of scaling a company, because you're trusting people to kind of take your idea or your baby, if you will, and kind of grow it and lead it. But one of my secret ingredients has been, if you trust people who have experience and they're good at what they do, they're going to do a better job than you can do. And I think a lot of our success is because we gave people the opportunity to lead, and we let them take risks. So I'm very, very big on promoting take risk and don't be afraid to fail. We're not going to win every time we do something, but we are going to try to win more than we lose. And if we can edge that we win even more than we lose, holistically, we're going to win. So when you find great people, and in an organization like PUR, we give a lot more latitude than maybe a big structured organization where people have very tight defined roles. So we say to you, okay, you got an idea? Let's hear it, and then go run with it. And you want to own that idea, build that idea, and let's see what you can do. And if it doesn't work, don't worry about it. Come back, bring the next idea, and tomorrow's a new day.
And they learn.
And they
every
learn.
single time.
Yeah,
They
like
get
just
better and better.
like I do. So we have this thing here that we call like the PUR blender, which is like, if we're sitting in a meeting sharing ideas, everyone tosses their idea into the blender. You turn on the blender, and out comes this new smoothie of everyone's ideas. But really, it's the output of the best ideas that went in there. And then you're figuring out, how do we apply this to whatever we're working on?
How do you think, what's your key to growing your team and picking the right people every time? Because, I mean, anyone can have experience, but not everyone can execute.
Yeah. So we definitely don't pick the right people every time. I don't think any business does. And, what you need to do is trust your gut and trust your experience. So there is no substitute for experience. The more you go through life, you reflect back on decisions that you've made or experiences that you've had, and you kind of extract, what did I learn there and how can I apply it to the next decision that I'm making? That's why I think that entrepreneurs should really study failure, or why businesses didn't succeed, or what were the troubles that businesses went through. And then what can I learn from that so I can apply it to a success, right? And with people, everyone is going into an interview being their best self. Or they're in an interview and they're nervous because they're just trying to get qualified. Like, please hire me, then I'll be more relaxed, and then I'll go from there. So you really don't know. I mean, if you think about it, you're meeting someone for 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, and then you're going to work with them for 2,000 hours.
Yeah.
So the sample is very small. I actually almost relate it to buying a house. When you buy a house, you walk through the house, you tour it for 30 minutes, and you say, yeah, this is great. people don't even say, could I sleep in the house one night to make sure that there's no horns going off, or the train tracks don't make noise or whatever it is. People say, yeah, it's great.
Yep. $2 million.
That's it. $2 million. I'll buy that house.
Right.
Like, it's actually a crazy thing. And when someone goes to buy a car, before they buy the car, they say, I want to take it for a test drive. I want to play with the radio. I want to do all that stuff. And that's a much smaller purchase. Right. So you have to kind of take calculated risk when you're hiring people. And, you never know. You just hope you're right more than you're wrong.
You never know.
And when you get lucky and you meet great people, you have to respect them. You have to take care of them. You have to give them a platform to grow. And you want to have fun. People want to wake up in the morning and have fun. They don't want to go into an environment where they're not happy to be there. And those are the lessons that I've learned over time, which is not only do you want to have fun, because sometimes if you have too much fun, you don't get any work done. But you got to find the balance of fun and work, and together that creates success.
And so finally, we've asked every single guest on the show, what is one Jewish value that you hold that you think was critical to your success?
For me, I would say giving back. I was raised by a single mom. I'm an only child, and we didn't have a ton. It was very important for my mom to keep me in, Hebrew day school. And, I saw how much she gave back with even whatever she could do. And my mom was in the party business, and I would watch her give balloons to kids. And, even if they just walked by her store, she would be so happy to give a kid a balloon. And there was a point in my life when I was maybe 12, 13, 14, and I say, Mom, I don't understand. Like, we sell the balloons. Why are you giving them away? And she talked about how happy it makes people. And if you think back to when you were a kid, if someone gives you a balloon, like you're so happy. And then when you let it go and it flies away, you're actually so sad. But the happiness that comes from that balloon is the giving back or the giving forward. And when I was kind of on my journey, when people would take 5 minutes to help me out, if people would open a door for an introduction, if people would create an opportunity for me to have a new opportunity, I was so grateful for that. And that's something that today I hold on to, and I get more pleasure from helping out than I do from whatever the benefit is that comes. And today, making time, which is your most valuable resource, is really the nicest thing that you can do. And if you kind of lean on times when you saw or felt nice things happen in your past, and for me, that was giving back, I love doing it today. So that's my Jewish value, is giving back.
Amazing. Jay, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
On the podcast.